Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I'll be honest, I'm not okay. I'm not even sure if I'm thinking clearly anymore. All I know is I'm angry at my brother, my ex, my family, and maybe even myself. Maybe I shouldn't have said what I did, but I also can't keep pretending this situation is normal. Here's the thing. My ex-girlfriend, Claire, abandoned our son, Liam, when he was 1 year old. She packed her bags, walked out the door, and left me to figure out how to raise him alone. No calls, no visits, no child support, nothing. Now, my brother Ryan, the guy I've barely gotten along with my entire life, is dating her. Worse, they just announced they're expecting a child together. I'm supposed to be happy for them, supportive even. But when they told the family, I snapped. And now everyone's telling me I'm the a-hole. You'd think that after everything Claire did, I'd be able to write her off completely. But it's hard to erase someone who was once such a big part of your life. We met 7 years ago, and it felt like fate at the time. When we found out she was pregnant with Liam, I was ecstatic. I was ready to take on the responsibility to build a family together. Claire, not so much. She struggled with the idea of motherhood from the start. I did everything I could to support her, but there was always this wall between her and Liam. When she left, she didn't even look back. She made it clear she didn't want to be a mom, and I had to accept that for Liam's sake. He was a baby. He didn't deserve to feel unloved or unwanted. I don't think I've ever really processed how much her leaving affected me. I just kept going because I had to. Liam needed me, and I couldn't afford to fall apart. Ryan and I were never close. He's always been the kind of person who takes what he wants without thinking about how it affects anyone else. But even knowing that, I was blindsided when he announced he was dating Claire. I found out at a family dinner. He just casually dropped it like it was no big deal. Oh, by the way, I'm seeing Claire now. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Claire, the woman who abandoned my son, his nephew. And Ryan didn't even think to talk to me about it beforehand. He didn't care how it would affect me or Liam. When I confronted him, he shrugged it off. You two didn't work out. That's not my problem, he said, like I was overreacting for feeling betrayed. My family's response wasn't much better. They told me to be the bigger person and let it go. My mom actually said, Ryan has a right to be happy. Sure, but at what cost? I've tried to stay civil, even when everything about their relationship feels like a slap in the face. But last Sunday, it all came crashing down. My parents invited me and Liam over for brunch, which is something we do regularly. I knew Ryan and Claire would be there, and I was bracing myself for another awkward meal. I didn't expect them to drop a bombshell halfway through. Ryan stood up, grinning ear to ear, and said, We have some exciting news. Claire smiled and announced, We're having a baby. The room erupted into cheers. My mom started hugging Claire. My dad slapped Ryan on the back, and everyone was congratulating them like they hadn't just announced the most surreal and infuriating thing I'd ever heard. Meanwhile, I sat there in stunned silence, staring at the two of them. I thought about Liam, the son Claire walked away from, and the fact that everyone at the table seemed to have conveniently forgotten her history. And then I opened my mouth. Are you serious? I said. She abandoned her first child, and now she's having another one? Why should she be making more babies if she can't take care of the one she already has? The room went silent, dead silent. Claire's face crumbled, and Ryan looked like he wanted to end me. My mom immediately jumped in, scolding me for ruining the moment. Ryan started yelling about how I always make everything about myself. But it's not about me. It's about Liam. I grabbed Liam and left. I couldn't stay in that house a second longer. My mom called me furious, saying I embarrassed Ryan and Claire and ruined what should have been a happy moment. My dad says I need to apologize for causing a scene. Even Ryan sent me a text saying I was bitter and jealous and needed to move on. Claire hasn't reached out, which honestly feels like a blessing. A few of my cousins, though, have reached out to say they understand why I'm upset. They think it's ridiculous that Claire is building a new family while completely ignoring the one she already has. But their support is a small comfort when the rest of my family seems hell-bent on making me the bad guy. I keep thinking about Liam. He's 5 now, and he doesn't remember Claire. But one day, he's going to ask questions. One day, he's going to want answers. How am I supposed to explain to him that his mom walked away from him and started a new family with his uncle? It feels like a betrayal on every level. From Claire, for abandoning her son and then acting like she's ready to be a mom again. From Ryan, for choosing to date her in the first place. And from my family, for enabling all of it and expecting me to just sit back and smile. At the same time, I wonder if I should have handled it differently. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything during the announcement. Maybe I should have kept my mouth shut and let them have their moment. But then I think about Liam and how none of this is fair to him. And I don't regret standing up for my son. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for calling them out during their announcement? Or was I justified in refusing to stay silent about what Claire has done? OP was absolutely right to call them out. Claire walked out on her child, and now she wants to play happy family with OP's brother? That's not just hurtful, it's cruel. OP's family is enabling their behavior by pretending everything is fine and expecting OP to go along with it. Liam deserves better. He deserves people who will stand up for him, and that's exactly what OP did. OP's brother is just as much at fault here. Dating OP's ex who abandoned her child? That's a betrayal of the highest order. And honestly, OP's family should be ashamed for prioritizing their happiness over OP's son's well-being. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole. This isn't about you being bitter and jealous, as Ryan claims. It's about the fact that Claire abandoned her responsibilities as a parent. How can your family celebrate her starting a new family when she hasn't even acknowledged the one she left behind? Your feelings are valid, and you had every right to say what you did. If anything, it sounds like your family is brushing this under the rug because it's easier than dealing with the messy truth. Stand your ground, and don't let them guilt-trip you into apologizing. You're putting Liam first, and that's what matters. Info. Have Ryan and Claire ever tried to explain themselves? Like, has Claire ever expressed any regret about leaving Liam? Or does she just pretend he doesn't exist? And does Ryan even care what this means for his nephew? Regardless, not the a-hole. Ryan is your brother, and he should have thought about how this relationship would affect you and Liam before jumping into it. Claire's actions are unforgivable, and the fact that your family expects you to support them is absurd. Not the a-hole. Let's break this down. 1. Claire abandoned her first child. 2. Ryan chose to date her, knowing full well what she did. 3. Your family expects you to be okay with this and move on like it's no big deal. They're completely disregarding your feelings and Liam's. You didn't ruin anything. You told the truth. The fact that your family is more concerned about Ryan and Claire's moment than Liam's reality says a lot about their priorities. You're doing the right thing by standing up for your son. Update. It's been 3 years since my last post. I didn't update, but I went no contact with my parents and my brother. And honestly, it was the best thing I could have done for myself and Liam. Our life has been peaceful and focused on building a happy, stable environment without all the drama and toxicity. Not long after I cut ties, Claire and Ryan welcomed their son, Matthew. From what I heard through mutual acquaintances, raising a child wasn't as easy or romantic as they'd imagined, and the cracks in their relationship started showing almost immediately. Claire began pulling the same disappearing act she did with me when Liam was a baby. Ryan was left to handle most of the parenting, and by the time Matthew was 6 months old, Claire was out the door. She walked out on him the same way she walked out on me and Liam. I'd like to say I was surprised, but I wasn't. Fast forward to now. Out of the blue, my mom called me last week. I didn't even recognize the number at first because I had blocked all their contacts. She left a voicemail, saying she needed to talk about something important and asking me to call her back. Against my better judgment, I did. When I called, she launched into this emotional speech about how hard things had been for Ryan since Claire left and how he's struggling to raise Matthew on his own. She said he's overwhelmed and needs help, and then she dropped the bombshell. Would you consider taking Matthew in, just until Ryan gets back on his feet? I laughed. I couldn't help it. The audacity of that request was so absurd, it felt like a bad joke. You've got to be kidding me, I said. You really think I'm going to clean up Ryan's mess after everything he's done? After you all turned your backs on me and Liam? My mom tried to guilt trip me, saying, "Matthew is your nephew, and he's innocent in all of this. He deserves a loving family." I told her that was rich, coming from someone who had no problem letting Liam grow up without one. I made it clear that I would not be stepping in to help Ryan. I told my mom that Ryan made his choices, and now he has to live with the consequences. I also reminded her of how my family treated me when I needed their support, how they dismissed my pain, prioritized Ryan and Claire, and expected me to just accept it all with a smile. My mom started crying, saying I was being cold and vindictive. But honestly, I don't care anymore. I spent years bending over backward for a family that didn't respect me, and I'm done. So that's a little update for you guys. Looks like people don't change. I, 24 female, have always supported both my parents, even though they are separated. My mother has a boyfriend for about 2 years now. Her boyfriend's dream is to have children of his own, something my mother cannot do. Not only does she have her tubes tied, but she has a lot of health problems. The deal was that they were going to break up, but they seem to always extend their breakup date. My mother had a talk with him about their breakup. Suddenly, he wants to do anything possible to have a baby with her, including IVF. I thought that my mom would get a consultation and she would get rejected just from her bad health. Somehow, a doctor convinced my mom it is possible. My father and her are on somewhat good terms. She asked him for $15,000 for a life-saving surgery. This is somewhat true because she does need 2 surgeries for her current health problems. My father talked to me and asked if I really thought she was being truthful, since we all know about the baby thing. I told him I don't think she would lie about something like that. My mother then came over and told me her plan of how to pay for IVF and how she would ask my dad for money. She told me this on a Saturday. On Sunday, I met my dad again. He told me how worried he was about my mom and how he had the $15,000 cash ready for her. I tried convincing my mother to tell him the truth and to not do things like this. She got defensive and showed no signs of fessing up, so I sat my father down and told him. Since then, she told me how awful my father was to her and how she deserves to be happy. She was never cared for or loved, and she feels he should pay for it. My father has done horrible things like cheating, but since they broke up, he's helped her a lot financially. I do not condone my father's actions, but something in my heart told me this was wrong. My number one fear was her health. I decided to distance myself from her until she breaks up with her boyfriend. I told her I would still be there for her for anything. I still send her pictures of our granddaughter every other day and keep her updated. She is now saying how I don't care about her happiness and my ultimatum is too harsh. However, her relationship with her boyfriend has actually affected my little family in the past. We were all supposed to move in together after they broke up. He decided to stay last minute, and I had to let go of an apartment. Let's just say I'm not comfortable with him being around my daughter. Since the whole baby thing began, he has made sexist comments about female babies. I think I may be the a-hole because she has a timer on her. She is 45, and at 46 they don't use her eggs for IVF anymore. I'm not really sure. That's what she said. Anyway, she is turning 46 this month, and I may have ruined her only chance of ever conceiving a baby. I ruined her only chance of ever having a baby. But weren't you a baby? Do you not count? Don't put that on yourself. She's not desperate to have a baby. She's desperate to keep this man. A man that doesn't care one bit whether or not this is good for her health or not. Also, she lied to your dad to get $15,000. $15,000. That's fraud. You are not the a-hole in this situation. You did good, kid. Not the a-hole. Your dad has the right to know what his money is going towards if he is loaning such a large amount. You tried to get your mother to tell him first, but her refusal only left you with two choices: to tell your dad or let him be duped. In my opinion, exposing your mom's manipulation was the right thing to do. Not the a-hole. Unlikely she would fall pregnant with IVF at the first attempt. It is around 40% success rate if you are under 35. Once you pass 42, that success rate can go as low as 4%. Add in her health issues as well, and that percentage decreases. What is she planning on doing if IVF fails? About 5 years ago, I was engaged, and my then fiancé ran off with my best friend and roommate. This led to all sorts of bad things happening. A few months later, my brother got married to his longtime fiancé, and I found out my ex was the maid of honor at his wedding, and she made the guy she ran off with his best man. Ever since then, I have refused to have anything to do with my brother. Recently, my brother and his wife had a baby, and due to some postpartum issues, my mother has been caring for the child. So recently, my fiance went dress shopping and invited her mom, my mom, and her wedding party. Apparently, during the drive, my mother started talking about how I should just forget what happened, forgive my brother, and move on. When I was told this, I lost it. I told my mother I would never invite my brother and that he has no place in my life. He's not a brother to me. She also thinks that because my other brother in Germany is coming, that my younger brother deserves to see him. I said that's up to him, but not at my wedding. My fiancé says I should bury the hatchet because it's not fair that my nephew will never know me. I said if the child reaches out to me later in life, I am fine with that. But I stood my ground about not letting my brother attend the wedding or be a part of my life. This has been going on for months, and it seems like everyone is leaning to his side. Am I really the a-hole here? Edit. For everyone asking if he's ever apologized, he hasn't. One year, he did have my mother give me a Christmas present. It was a doormat with my name on it. I thought it was insulting. My mother said it was him trying to extend an olive branch. Edit 2. For those asking about my relationship prior, my brother and I had a healthy relationship prior to this. The general thought process is that his wife didn't have a lot of friends here, so my ex was one of her only local friends. She would be the maid of honor. D-Bag was now her boyfriend, so my ex wanted to walk the aisle with him, so made him the best man. Obviously, this was never going to sit well with me, so the easy thing to do was not invite me. I'm guessing they thought I would just let it go, as I'm usually a mild person. Not the a-hole. He gave you a doormat as an olive branch? A doormat? A very telling gift. He's literally mocking you and calling you a doormat. Your parents are enabling him and using his child as something above you. Leverage. Take note. Not the a-hole. Excuse me? He made that guy his best man and called you a doormat? Did I miss something? Why on earth would you ever want to see him? He did not invite you to his wedding. And what did your mother say about that? Is your family threatening you if he was not invited they wouldn't come? Not the a-hole. So today we had a little get-together at my in-laws' house. It was my wife and I, her parents, her sister, her brother, and her brother's fiancé. We were outside in the backyard having barbecue, and I noticed that they kept sending my wife into the house to get things, which bothered me. She had 2 other siblings there, and the fiancé. Why did my wife have to keep running errands? Then, when we were all sitting around in a circle in fold-out chairs, and the father asked my wife to go inside and bring out some juice that he had left in the freezer. But I put my hand on her lap and said, "She's been getting up and down all day. I think she's a little tired." And then I turned to her sister, who was sitting on the left of me, and asked her, "Do you mind getting the drink?" My father-in-law said, "I think I asked my daughter to get the drink." I said, "You know what? It's been great, everybody. I think it's time we leave." I told my wife she could bring the drink, but that we were leaving. When she brought the drink to her father, he said, "Just sit down for a few more minutes. I'm not finished talking." I grabbed her hand and said, "You can call." Then he lowered his voice and said, "Jean," that's my wife's name, in a serious voice like he was about to scold her. And she hesitated. I had to whisper to her, "If you don't come get with me right now, I'm leaving you here." And I meant it. When we got back to the car, she got upset and said to me, "What's your problem?" I said, "My problem? You didn't notice how they kept asking only you out of everybody there to keep getting stuff?" Anyway, her father called on our drive home and said that since she chose me over him, he wouldn't be speaking to her anymore. I said good and hung up the phone on him, but I can see that she was bothered by his words. Now she's giving me the silent treatment. Honestly, I don't know what the duck I signed up for, but I'm kind of glad I was there to stop that crap. We've only been married since last November, and I had no clue her family was like that. Everything you hated in how the father tried to control his daughter has been mirrored by your actions in controlling your wife. Take a step back, and you should see that no one has even bothered to ask what your wife wants. You both tried to take away her autonomy. Edit. I've changed my verdict to everyone sucks here, except the wife, from the original Yes the A-hole. To qualify, the wife's family are absolute a-holes, and the OP is a mild a-hole because of the bad handling of the situation and because he needs to calm himself down, listen to, and work with his wife in a more mature way to actually help her get out of this aggressive cycle. Everyone sucks here except your wife. If you were really concerned about how your wife was being treated, you should have pulled her aside and asked her what's up and how she was doing. Get her perspective on the situation. Instead, your first move was to start a unit measuring contest with your father-in-law, and your second move was to double down and piss off your wife. I feel sorry for your wife, for being the poor woman caught between two gaping a-holes. Edit. It wasn't only the father that was making her get them stuff. It was everybody. Mom, sister, brother, fiancé. Edit 2. I didn't get the drink because I was pissed at that point and not thinking logically. I felt like they were treating her like a servant girl and that she was too conditioned not to see that the way they were treating her was wrong. Honestly, looking back, I think she was afraid of him, and there was definitely something she's not telling me. Edit 3. Anyway, I came to a decision. You guys are right. I'm the a-hole for being protective of my wife. Apparently, that's controlling. So if she's still mad at me by tomorrow, our marriage is over, because I can't silently sit back and just watch her be a doormat, even to her own family. Edit 4. I apologize to my wife, but I may have screwed up again. Some backstory. I'm 30 female, the oldest of 5. I have 3 full siblings, male 27, female 25, Juliet 20, and 1 half-sister, Charlotte 7. 8 years ago, my dad had an affair. That woman got pregnant and didn't want anything to do with the baby, so she gave her to my parents. My parents didn't want anything to do with her, so my sisters and I were always expected to take care of Charlotte, and she's always had her own room in my house because I babysat overnight so often. 5 years ago, my parents moved into a 2-bedroom condo. My dad had 1 room and my mom had the other. Juliet and Charlotte were supposed to share the living room. Charlotte climbed onto the balcony and fell once. She got out of the condo and was found wandering around the neighborhood multiple times. Hell, Juliet would take her and they'd take a bus, walk to my place. Needless to say, after a couple months, they both moved in with me. Charlotte was okay after falling from the balcony in case anyone was worried. 4 years ago, I adopted both girls. Right before Juliet started college, our parents told her they used her college fund to pay for their condo. So instead of going to her dream school, she went to community college and goes to a nearby state school, and I pay her tuition. Community college is free in our area, and the state school isn't too expensive. Plus, she has some scholarships to help cover it. Charlotte is such a happy little girl. She's the kind of kid that'll run up to you and jump into your arms when you visit before running outside to pick you some flowers. I love dressing her up and doing her hair, and our talks when I walk her home from school, and our ice cream dates. She's the perfect kid. My parents want nothing to do with Charlotte. They barely like talking to Juliet, but at least they'll say happy birthday and get her a Christmas gift. Charlotte hasn't seen them since she was 3 and doesn't know who they are. As far as she knows, I'm her only mommy. I've been dating Henry for 3 years. He adores Charlotte and is an amazing stepdad. He moved in a few months ago and we're getting married in October. We posted on our social medias about the wedding, and my parents texted me asking when they should expect their invitation. I told them they're not invited. Juliet is my maid of honor, and she doesn't want to see them, and I don't want them around Charlotte. They tried telling me that their relationship with Juliet or Charlotte is none of my business, and that they were good parents to me, so they deserve to be invited to my wedding. I told them it is my business because I adopted them, and I said they weren't good parents because they forced me to become a mom at 23 when Charlotte was born. Now my mom is upset that I'm blaming her for my dad's mistakes, and I have other family members telling me I should invite them to keep the peace. So, I wanted to know if I was the a-hole. Not the a-hole. First of all, your sisters are incredibly lucky to have you. That said, you absolutely are not obligated to invite these people to your wedding. Good on you for putting the feelings of Julia and Charlotte above those of anyone else. You certainly didn't learn that from your parents. Not the a-hole. Weddings are about family, real family. I got some crap when I didn't invite certain people to my wedding, but it was worth it to have a good celebration. It truly was one of the best days of my life, and I strongly believe it's because I didn't invite any a-holes. Holy hell, not the a-hole. Charlotte had 3 parents, and none of them could be bothered to even make sure she couldn't fall off a freaking balcony. What trash, people! Juliet and Charlotte are your kids. It is your responsibility to protect them from people who would wish them harm, and neglect and indifference absolutely count as harm. Those kinds of people should not attend your wedding. End of story. So, weird situation, and one I feel like needs a real verdict where I can be impartial. So, I, 30 male, have been married 3 years to my wife Nicole. Nicole has a sister named Bella, who I absolutely despise. Just the kind of person I don't get along with. Never have since the moment we met. I've tried everything to just keep it cordial between us. In my opinion, she's pretty self-centered and just a scumbag. But my wife doesn't have a ton of family outside of her sister and her mom, so they have always been close. Well, for a long time, Bella was dating this dude Cody. Me and Cody actually liked each other and would hang out. Well, Bella not only cheated on Cody, but the way she did it and who she did it with was awful. Totally crushed Cody, and Bella wouldn't let it go. She kept on contacting, showing up to his place until he eventually filed a restraining order. She always tried to act like Cody was the issue, and he forced her to do it. I stayed out of the whole mess, basically telling my wife that she handles her family and I'll handle mine, but just don't ask me to be kind to Bella or even cordial moving forward, as I've seen her true colors and don't want her around my life at all, because God knows what she's capable of. So recently Bella has started dating again, and for some reason feels the need to bring these dudes over to our house. I've said from the beginning that I would definitely warn any man she brings over about her. So that is exactly what I've done. I've already ruined 2 potential relationships by telling the guys the truth. I simply ask them what they know about her. They say only good things. Bella's very good about putting on a good face. We then have a man-to-man type of a conversation. I tell them exactly what happened with her and Cody and the restraining order. Both times the guys thanked me and told me they appreciated me watching out for them. Bella and me have gone at it over this. My wife tries to stay out of it, telling Bella that she shouldn't bring the guys over here if she doesn't want me saying anything. But behind closed doors, my wife is upset and saying I'm being an a-hole, that I'm putting her in a tough spot. I've said multiple times, if Bella was honest and told these guys up front, then it wouldn't be an issue. But I'm not covering up a liar, and these guys deserve a clear window. And if she has a problem with it, then don't bring the guys over. Am I the a-hole? I'm going to say not the a-hole because it's not like you're tracking them down. She's bringing them to your house, and I'd want a warning too. Oh boy, this is kind of complex. Because on one hand, you said that you wanted to stay out of it and let your wife handle her own family. So you getting directly involved is a bit contradictory to what you told your wife, in my opinion. Especially if you don't like Bella. Because if I was in your wife's or Bella's shoes, I would feel like you were doing it to just be spiteful. That's probably why your wife called you the a-hole. But on the other hand, you made it very clear that you would tell any guy she brings to your place. So she knows what she's getting into, and it's ultimately her fault. She knows the consequences of her actions. Not sure why she feels the need to bring these guys to your place. That part is definitely weird. You are doing the right thing. Those guys deserve to know. I would say 100% not the a-hole, but there's a lot of things you should look into immediately. Why is your wife enabling your sister's behavior? Is it possible Bella has an ulterior motive to drive a wedge between you and your wife?